Hi, I'm Niall Kilrane from the ICBF, the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation, and we're here in Tully today to talk about the Gene Ireland breeding programme. So my main role is around the operational end of the breeding programme. It's been in use on the dairy beef side of the programme since about 2015, so this is actually year 12, 2026 is the 12th year of the dairy beef Gene Ireland programme. And the breeding programme involves very much a cross-industry collaboration. It starts off with pedigree breeders. The pedigree breeders have a huge role to play in terms of breeding high-index dairy beef bulls for use in the national dairy herd. So we're talking about traits like easy calving, short gestation, which are non-negotiable from the dairy farmer's side of the house. But those bulls also need to have very strong beef traits to ensure that the beef finishers who are going to buy those calves and finish those animals are able to generate a profit from those. So it's very much trying to identify a balanced type of beef bull. So it's easy calving, short gestation, but also has good beef traits. And those bulls are selected on the Dairy Beef Index. So the Dairy Beef Index is a composite index. It encompasses the traits of importance to both sets of the industry, and the bulls that are eligible for the Gene Ireland Dairy Beef Programme must be 5 stars of crossbreed on the Dairy Beef Index. So they must be in the top 20% of the population to be considered eligible for inclusion on the test panel. So that test panel is assembled every spring. We have very good collaboration with the AI companies in terms of NCBC, Dove and Eurogene all supply high index bulls for that programme, and our role is then to facilitate the distribution of that semen out to approximately 600 dairy farmers across the country. So those commercial dairy farmers have a huge role to play in terms of that they order the straws through Gene Ireland. They don't get to select the individual bulls, they get to select the breeds, and ICBF then oversee the delivery of those straws out to those farms all across the country. So the typical order is in the region of about 40 straws per herd. The main breeds that farmers are using are Angus and Hereford, but there is also lots of other breeds distributed through the programme: Belgian Blues, Limousins, Aubracs. We try to facilitate as many requests as possible. So after those straws are distributed, the data starts to come back in. The first piece of data that would come in is from the insemination record. So it's a really, really important piece of data to come in to the database because it allows us to get an accurate gestation score on the bull. The most common source of that piece of data coming in would be the AI technicians' handheld computers. So if the farmer is using a technician, that technician comes out, inseminates the cow, enters the tag number and the sire number into the handheld. It goes straight into the ICBF database. So we know then in 9 months' time when that calf is registered, we have a very accurate gestation score on that bull. And there's a big range. There's short gestation bulls, there's long gestation bulls. But the data allows us to very clearly and quickly identify the short gestation bulls. And that is what the industry is looking for. There's not a sector of the market that's looking for long gestation bulls. So it's a very binary trait. Everyone is looking for short gestation bulls. The next piece of data obviously comes in the calving score. So the dairy farmers, as I said, that use these straws, they are then recording calving difficulty scores on these bulls, and there's a very clearly established format to score those calving scores. One is an unassisted score, or an unassisted calving, in terms of that the farmer didn't have to assist in any way, come out, saw the calf on the ground. That is a easy calving, scores a 1. And the other end of the spectrum then, it goes up to number 4. A 4 would be in terms of maybe a caesarean section, very, very severe calving problems. And what we're seeing is that the vast majority of bulls that come through the programme, that we're able to accurately predict their calving score before the calves actually hit the ground. That's an outcome of having this very powerful integrated database, that we are now in a position with a combination of on-farm records and genotype records to very accurately predict the calving score of those bulls before they even have their calves born. The next step in the process, obviously the calves are born now, they're on the farms, and we have a very good working relationship with ABP in terms of their a key role to play as a programme partner in purchasing approximately 400 calves of these Gene Ireland bulls for their research farm down in Carlow, Shepherd's Farm in Carlow. It's really a powerful tool for the industry to display best practice in terms of dairy beef finishing systems. So we work very closely with ABP. They buy those calves from the Gene Ireland progeny test herds. They bring them to Shepherd's. They rear them up to capture, again, lots of very useful data in terms of growth rates, methane emissions. Outside of, suppose, ICBF's remit, they're capturing lots of husbandry stuff, grassland management, loads of really useful industry data to display to the farming community what the potential is in terms of the dairy beef world. A very important next step then is in terms of a subset of those animals end up in the Tully Progeny Test Centre each year. So approximately 100 steers and 50 heifers are picked out of the 400 calves in shepherds each year, and those animals come in here to be finished in Tully for the hard to capture traits that we can capture in the research centre here. And then the real powerful and the principle of it is that it's repeatable. So every year we just repeat that exercise. We assemble the bulls, we send out the straws, get the data on the farms, get the cattle into Tully, get the cattle through the system, and repeat it year after year. And as we said, there's 12 years of data gone through the system, very consistent approach, and it's a very good example of multiple organisations working together to ensure the rate of genetic gain in the national herd is moving in the right direction. And we've identified lots and lots of very, very high index, high reliability bulls that are really capable of delivering profit to beef farmers that are finishing these calves year on year.